Today on Everyday Injustice, we have Martha Arevalo. She's from CARECEN, LA. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
And you're the executive director of the organization. Just by way of background,
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about what you guys do?
Absolutely. So I'm the executive director of the Central American Resource Center, CARECEN. We're in Los Angeles, and we are a hybrid organization that provides both immigration legal services and also policy advocacy and organizing. And then our third pillar of work is crisis management, rapid response, and just providing and protecting as many immigrant families as possible.
So this is a loaded question, but I don't know where else to start. What does your world look like right now?
Definitely, our world is upside down, inside out, in many ways, and constantly changing on a daily basis. Often, we have been, over the last few decades, it's been clear that the immigrant population is the target, and in many ways, a political way for people on the right to gain political power. But in the last few days, is something that we've never seen. It's been a campaign of terror and fear, violence, militarization in our communities. We have families who still don't know where their family members are. And who are seeing their lives destroyed, basically, in a community that, whether you are undocumented or documented, a community that is tense and fearful and deeply, deeply affected about what's happening in Los Angeles, and the fact that the Trump administration is targeting Los Angeles as a sanctuary city.
So really tell us, what it's like to kind of be on the ground. Give us like the bird's eye view because I really feel like, it's one thing to read about it or even see it on TV, but you see these little 15-second snapshots. And I've worked with people that are, going through various challenges, but I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, it's something that is unprecedented when we have a federal government that is targeting a community in its own country and really using weapons of war, using armored vehicles in our communities. It's definitely a moment that all of the country should be paying attention, not just Los Angeles, because I think that Los Angeles is a testing ground for what could happen to the rest of the country in terms of people's constitutional rights, human rights. And I just think that what we're seeing is an administration that is not following the law. When you have federal authorities of all different agencies, not just ICE, but other agencies as well, such as the FBI, the ATF, and others, come into communities with masks on, with weapons of war, with armored vehicles. And really, there is no dialogue or conversation. There is no such thing as, oh, here, we're here to execute a warrant. We're looking for this person. Who are you? It's really just racial profiling people in the streets, in the community, people getting donuts, people going to Home Depot, people just walking in their neighborhood because they look Latino or they look like it could be an immigrant, whether they're undocumented or not documented or documented, and really just not asking any questions, not having any conversation or dialogue, and just apprehending them, detaining them, and then they'll figure it out later, right? Who cares about their constitutional rights? Cares about their legal rights? We'll just figure out later. We'll put them in a detention center. often in horrible conditions. And then if you happen to have documents, we'll let you off in a few days. That is a very scary proposition for so many, and just the way that people are being treated. We've also had community come out to ask questions, to protest, to figure out what's happening in their community, to their families, to their neighbors, and really the engagement of federal authorities with community who wants to know what is going on in this chaos has been tear gas. Again, there is no conversation, there is no dialogue. It's been tear gas, rubber bullets, more armored vehicles, more armaments of war. And so it's been a really chaotic campaign of terror for our community. And you'll see our communities, often kids are not going to school, people are not going to work. You'll see our stores in certain communities being deserted, businesses not having enough business or clients because people don't want to come out of their houses. And again, it's not just targeting people who are undocumented, it's targeting Angelenos as a whole.
Yeah, and I think that's the most important part that gets lost here. I get pushback from people all the time. Well, I don't have much heartache if they're deporting undocumented, or they don't use that word. They use worse words, that are criminals. But I mean, I've seen the stats. Only like a quarter of the people that have been targeted for deportation have any kind of criminal records. And in some cases, it's really minor stuff. But also, people that were born in the US and are by definition then American citizens have been rounded up. And you said a few days. I've read stories where they've been in detention for months. And
Yes.
and they haven't been able to call attorneys. They haven't been able to get any kind of due process. So like we're not just talking about the undocumented community, which by the way is not okay in my opinion, to target undocumented people. I mean, it's one thing, I'm not gonna have a lot of heartache if somebody commits a really heinous crime, serves their time, and then goes through the normal deportation process. That's kind of to be expected. But we're talking about people that have lived in this country for most of their lives. They don't have roots in other countries, and suddenly they're being uprooted and they're being sent to basically gulags in El Salvador and Yemen or wherever they're sending them, or Guantanamo maybe, or what is it, the alligator Alcatraz. I mean, and the conditions in those places, as you mentioned, are horrific. You put somebody in the baking in the sun and 140-degree heat without water, they're going to die.
Absolutely, and people are dying.
Yeah.
I think it's important to know that we have an immigration system, a broken system, but we have an immigration system that has different layers of documentation and people being able to work and live and stay in this country legally. We have people that have temporary protected status or DACA, and those allow people to have a work permit and to live in the country for a particular amount of time. We have people with permanent residency and citizenship, naturalized citizens, and everybody under those categories are being apprehended because again, they're not asking questions. There's no warrants. They're not looking for a specific person. If you look Latino, if you look like you could be an immigrant, they might get you. And so we still have to respect the law, though. We still have to respect the system that we have. And if somebody has residency or protected status, then they can be here in the country per the U.S. government. And so those people still have that ability and should not be fearful that they're going to be separated from their families or that their civil and constitutional rights will be violated. In addition to that, I think that this country has been fed a bunch of lies. The big lie of immigrants are criminals, that's not true. Statistically, we know that that is not true. That immigrants don't work, that is not true. We know that some of the best workforce of this country, and why this country continues to be economically a powerhouse. Why California, for example, is the fourth largest economy of the world, is largely in part because of immigrant labor and immigrant workers. So everything that the public has been told, that immigrants are taking more than they're giving to the society and to the economy of the United States, it's a big lie. It's not true. So when you are deporting people that do not have documents, you're going to be affected directly. The agricultural industry will be affected. The construction industry will be affected. And many, many others, people in the front lines, many people that work during the pandemic in the front lines, frontline workers who risked their lives. And that is going to affect everyone. People are not going to have enough food in the stores, and they're not going to have enough housing. And so, in addition to that, it's not what is good for this country. And so, but lastly, I would say that we have a set of laws, we have a set of rights. Everybody deserves for those rights to be respected. We are having people and families that cannot find their loved ones. They don't know where they are. They don't know which detention center. They don't know if the people that apprehended them are real federal authorities or people pretending to be authorities wanting to cause harm. We haven't been able to find them. Many times people have been in the detention center for days, weeks, and months without having access to an attorney. We have had our legal teams go to the detention centers here in Southern California. It would be the B18, which is the one in downtown LA, and also Adelanto Detention Center. And we have legal teams that have been there for a full day, 8 hours, 10 hours, and have been able to see 2 to 3 clients. That is not an effective system that is really providing due process for people that are in detention.
So I want to start here. Can you tell us or share with us a story of a family that was impacted by this? Because I feel like it's important to get this to a really personal level so that people can kind of, put their feet in other people's shoes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we have an example of this TPS holder, temporary protected status holder from El Salvador, who actually has been here for about 30 years. He has had TPS for about 24 of this year. So he has had the ability to work and live in the United States legally for more than 2 decades, but it's been something that is not permanent, right? And he was going into a Home Depot to shop because he is in the construction industry. And so he was going in there to shop for a client. And it just so happened that 2 officers came, one from each side. They apprehended him. They put him in handcuffs. No questions asked. Again, no conversation. He kept telling them, "I have my TPS permit in my pocket." He kept pointing to his pocket, and it didn't matter. And he tells a story that he was being taken to the detention center, and there was an officer next to him and 2 officers in the front. And he said, I'm here legally. Why won't you listen to me? Why won't you just check? And they said, we're doing our job. And he says, your job is not to violate the law. Your job is not to hurt people. You are officers. You should be able to uphold the law. And he was in detention for about 3 days. And he was finally let out earlier this week. And this was a very traumatic experience for him. He has a family. He has young U.S. citizen children. He has 3 children. And just the thought that potentially he could be separated from his family, and that his family wouldn't even know where he went. And that he wouldn't be able to have an opportunity to see them again. Those are the types of things that we're seeing. There's another young man who was at an event with us on Monday, U.S. citizen. He was going to work, and he was at a light, and he had officer just kind of rush his car, take him out of the car, no questions asked, handcuffed, taken into detention. He was at the B18 detention center, sleeping on the floor, and he's a U.S. citizen, and he was there for about 4 or 5, I believe, 4 or 5 days. And he was telling his story, and he was emotional. This is a young man in his 20s. He says, I was never really involved in these type of issues. I've never been a political person, but this is not fair. This is not fair, and I'm a citizen. I can only imagine the type of violations that people who are not citizens, who are undocumented, are going through. And we have a constitution. We have always said to the world that we are a democracy, and that we have make sure that we uphold the constitutional rights and human rights. And we've been critical of other nations that do not. And we are now in a moment in our democracy where we are in a crisis, where we are not following the Constitution, where we are not following people's human rights. And no matter what they are, where they come from, they deserve those human and constitutional rights. And the fear also should be that today is this community in Los Angeles and the immigrant community. Tomorrow, it could be you. If you are dissent or criticize or question what the administration is doing, you could be the next target to send a message that you should not disagree, that you should not exercise your rights, and that you should just take it just because. And so this has much more, bigger implications than just Los Angeles and just the immigrant community. This is about the heart and the soul of this nation, and the future of democracy.
And I like the way you frame this because, first of all, it's important for people to understand that it's not just undocumented immigrants that are getting swept up in this. Second of all, I think it's really important for people to understand that even undocumented immigrants have rights.
That's
You
right.
know, the Fifth Amendment, the 14th Amendment do not say only citizens have the right to due process. No, it's life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And that is laid out not only in the Constitution, it's laid out statutorily, it's laid out in case law. This is a foundational principle that
Correct.
is getting violated here. And then the final part of this is that, yeah, this is the lesson of the Holocaust, right? Um, when they came for the socialists, I wasn't a socialist, so I didn't speak out. Well, they came after more and more people, and that's really what we're seeing. Like, we see college students getting targeted for who are here legally, and they're getting targeted. These are not just people that are here undocumented, and they're not just people here that have committed crimes. These are average, everyday, hardworking people. Probably most of them work way harder than you or I in the course of their day. So I want to kind of get to, you guys are actually fighting back. What are you doing? How are you fighting back? And then also give us some hope.
Yeah, we are who we are, right? We have been in existence for 42 years, and we're a social justice immigrant rights organization, and so we are just continuing to do the work that we've done for 42 years, and it's to protect as many people as possible, to protect people's human and constitutional and legal rights, to make sure that families have the opportunity to stay together. Again, that is a value of this nation, right? It's all about family values, and family matters. And so now the message that we're sending is that family matters only to some people. Only some people are worth it. And what we're saying is no. And so we're providing legal services. So we are making sure we're working with allies throughout Los Angeles and Southern California to provide legal representation to people that are detained and are in detention, because that is the right. And so we are representing people in their immigration cases. We are also pushing for policies and laws that can protect people's rights. California has been a state that is ahead of its time and ahead of other states in which we have put in place a lot of statewide and local safety nets, right? To make sure that as Californians, we are continuing to uphold those principles and those values and those rights. And so we are putting together those type of policies and that type of legislation and those type of programs, and pushing and advocating for that. We're working with local authorities to make sure that there is information exchange. We're making sure that we're working with local authorities and other institutions to provide other types of services. These are families who also have food insecurity, right? Because their lives have been just taking off kilter, right? Their breadwinners are in detention, and so how do we make sure that we provide food and other services to these families to survive this moment? But more importantly, we're educating our community to know that they have rights and to know that they have a voice, and that everyone should care about this issue. And so we're providing kind of know your rights workshops, but also leadership development. We're making sure that people have the support and that we're accompanying them in their struggle and that we're helping them in any way possible. I think that there's a lot of hope. I know that it doesn't feel like that often, but I'm actually here in San Francisco today and this whole week because yesterday we had a hearing with the federal court around Honduran, Nicaraguan, and Nepal TPS, temporary protected status. On Friday, we have a follow-up hearing regarding Venezuela and Haiti TPS, Haitian TPS. And what we have seen is that it's not just the usual suspects, right? It's not just the usual people that are supporting these efforts and who are here to send a message to the courts and to the country that these folks have support and these folks have a right to be here, and that these decisions that the administration is making are racist, they're unconstitutional, and they're illegal, right? And so we have seen people that have never been involved, people from other communities who are now getting involved because they're seeing what is happening on the ground. They're seeing the racial profiling, the level of racial profiling that is happening in our communities, and they don't agree. We're seeing really the tide turn in terms of people's understanding of the issues. I think that what was missing before is the lack of understanding. And I think people are seeing and understanding the issues more and the complexity of the issues. So I really believe that there is hope, that we have to reach out to our neighbors and our friends and our co-workers and tell them our stories, make sure that they understand what is happening, that this is not just about the other, this is about their next door neighbor. This is not about those undocumented people that are in the shadows. This is about, the kids in your school who are friends with your kids, the people that are taking care of your children often. And so I think that hopefully through that education and making sure that we're continuing to document what is happening on the ground and that we're able to show people what is happening on the ground, and just a complete disregard to the law that is happening and that people are seeing, I think people will understand more and will be more supportive of immigrant rights.
How can people protect themselves?
It's number one, I think that if you're an immigrant, whether you're documented or not documented, you have to learn your rights. And you also have to know exactly what to do if you're approached by federal authorities, or if they come to your home, or if they come to your work, the rights that you have, what you should say and shouldn't say. You should know that there is organizations that are working together to respond to some of these activities. So we have rapid response networks throughout different communities in the state of California. And so what the role of those networks are to go and document what is happening. And once people are detained and transported to detention centers, then we move into the legal phase, making sure that people have legal representation. Know your rights, know what to do. If you have a case pending, or if you have never seen an immigration legal expert or immigration attorney, it's very important that you visit one, that you have somebody that is an expert and that is trusted, that can look at your case and see if there's any avenues of relief, or what your situation is and what are some of the things that you should to be mindful of. In addition to that, the reality is that people will be deported. Some people will be deported. And so it's very important. We're working with families to prepare, to have an emergency plan. If you have children that are citizen children, to figure out what you want to do as a family. If the children will go with the parents if they're deported, or if they're going to stay, making sure that there is a guardian and that there is a plan on what to do. If you're a homeowner, if you are a business owner, making sure that there is a plan, again, about what you want to do with those assets. And so we are helping people kind of go step by step in terms of preparation for what could happen. Our goal and our hope is to protect as many people as possible, is to make sure that they can continue to call their neighborhood in the United States home. For the vast majority of people, these are folks that have been here most of their lives. If there's young adults that have been here most of their lives because they were brought when they were children, and they don't know their home countries or the countries where they were born, or their countries are still very insecure, right? And still dealing with some very, with war, right? With all of those types of instabilities. And so how can we make sure that we can protect as many people as possible so they can stay in their community?
What should people do, and what sorts of things should people not do?
Again, preparation is everything. It's also really important that people get connected to an organization or a community that is working, in this effort, that is working to fight for their rights. I think it's very important for people to find community in this moment. Not only are people suffering physically and being separated with their families, but people are also isolated. People are having to stay home, and that is affecting people's mental health. So finding community is really, really important. There's a lot of people that are here to support, the immigrant community. They are not alone. We are here, and we're going to continue to be here. And so there are services and there are support measures that you can access to be able to weather the storm. It's very, very important for people to, again, because you know your rights, that you have to know that you can remain silent. You have to know that unless people have a warrant, you do not have to open the door of your home. They have to show you a warrant, and so you can ask those questions. There might be the case in which those rights are violated, or those laws are violated. Very important for people to know our organizations, their organization in their community, where they can reach out to seek legal representation, so that they have that support and that help. We know that the statistics show that the outcome when you have legal representation are so much better, almost 80% better in terms of what could happen, for those people. So that is a key thing that people should prepare and know about and know where to go.
And I don't mean this as a flippant question, but are there enough attorneys to be able to handle this kind of caseload?
There's never enough attorneys. Immigration law is extremely complex, and again, that's a reflection of our broken immigration system, right? It's a system of patchwork, policies and programs. But there is help. There are organizations, particularly in California. Actually, California has, over the last 10 years, 15 years, has made a very strategic investment in increasing the capacity of immigrant rights organizations and immigration legal services organizations. So we have grown significantly, but even though we have grown, it's still not enough. But we have teams of people, right? So we will have an attorney that can lead a bigger team of people that are accredited paralegals or other type of legal clerks and support staff, that together we can become more efficient and help more people.
Now, I know you mentioned that you went to San Francisco for some hearings this week. But what does your normal day look like these days?
Um, you know, First and foremost, I have to say that we have an incredible team. So it's definitely shared. It's a shared burden. And we have very, very capable people. And also, we're a hybrid organization. We work from home, but also at the office. And so often my day will be checking emails and other forms of communication early in the morning. Sometimes we'll have meetings that involve people from the other coast. And so there are mornings where we'll have a very early morning when we're coordinating and working together. And then I make my way into the office. LA has awful traffic. And so I try
No,
to
you don't say.
so I try to time my trip to the office at a time in the day where there isn't as much traffic. And so I go to our headquarters.
So
I'm
like 3 in the morning or something?
No, actually, it's a little bit later in the morning. And
Oh.
so I head into the office on the days that I'm in the office. There are some days in which I'm in meetings. I have to go to meet with elected officials or with funders or with, different ally organizations. And so I might be in meetings since the morning in Los Angeles, but I won't make it into the office until the afternoon because been in meetings all day. Sometimes I'm in meetings and don't make it to the office. We're also traveling quite a bit. We're doing a lot of work in Sacramento. We just finished the budget process for the state. The state funds immigration legal services and funds organizations like ours, so we were very involved in that process. And again, I'm here in San Francisco for most of this week for these two hearings that have multiple activities happening, and a little bit of work in the courts, a little bit of organizing, a little bit of training in leadership development, and so we have very busy days. I would say that over the last 10 years, we've been in a constant state of crisis. So it used to be that we would have crises depending on the time of the year, right? But now it's just a constant state of crisis. And so it's about, maximizing our limited resources. And this morning, I've already had 3 meetings this morning for my staff in LA from San Francisco. And I'm so glad that during the pandemic we got so used to Zoom, right, and utilizing those tools. So we utilize those tools significantly. But again, I couldn't do it without an incredible team of dedicated people who are passionate about our mission and are really committed to protecting immigrant families.
And I assume you feel really supported by the state as well, that you have resources and you have backing and you have laws. And so in some areas, it's even worse.
Um, can you hear me?
Now I can.
Okay, good. I cannot even imagine what it would be anywhere else. We are definitely lucky to be in California. And it's, again, it's no surprise that because of that, California is, again, the fourth largest economy of the world. Um, and, but like everything, it takes advocacy, right? It's not something that happens overnight. It's not something that everybody fully understands. And we have to do a lot of work, a lot of advocacy work at the state level, at the county level, at the city level, to make sure that people from all parties and all backgrounds understand what is happening and what is the truth and what is the real the facts, right? And how we as a state could not only protect people but also protect our state. If we lose immigrant labor and immigrant workers, that will greatly affect California. And unfortunately, this administration, instead of supporting states that have strong economies, that therefore give more money to the federal government than they take, they are making our lives miserable, right?
Mhm.
And trying to really affect our ability to continue to have a strong economy. And again, that's going to affect the whole country. If California cannot give the billions and billions of dollars that goes to the federal government, that then goes to other states that don't have that ability, you will be affected. Immigrant labor, immigrant workers are a big part of that. And so we have to really kind of see the big picture. So, yes, we have support. We also have a legislature, an assembly, and Senate that we have some amazing champions like Senator Maria Elena Durazo and others who have been our champions and our allies in this effort. We've had to work hard with the governor's office, but they are also our allies and our champions, and we'll continue to advocate. We'll continue to push. This investment didn't happen by itself. It happened after 10 years of advocacy, and we'll continue to advocate and to make sure that people can continue to fight for their rights and to make sure that they are part of the change.
One last question. Where can people go to learn more about you guys and also how to protect themselves?
You can definitely visit our website. It's www.carecen, CARECEN -LA.org. And in that website, you will have all the information that you could need in terms of immigration legal services, participating in an in-person or virtual Know Your Rights workshop. You could also have information about the Rapid Response Network, be connected to other types of services, social services, and also how to get involved. Again, all of us who are privileged to be citizens or to be permanent residents, this is the moment. This is the moment where immigrant families need your support, our support. And I think if people come together and fight for our constitution, fight for our democracy, and fight for immigrant families to be able to stay together, I think that we will definitely make a difference.
Great. Well, we've been talking with Martha Arevalo. She is the executive director of CARECEN LA. This has been Everyday Injustice, and we've been talking about probably the most pressing issue today, immigration, the ICE raids, and how people can protect themselves. This has been Everyday Injustice. I'm your host, David Greenwald. Join us again next week for more tales from the injustice system.